Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Genshin Impact character review series, where we take a look at each character in the game, review them, and I give my opinions on them. So today's character is Keqing, the only 5-star Electro character as of now, which is crazy to think that the game has been out for almost a year and they never released a new Electro character, especially a 5-star, so that's crazy. And I don't care about lore and stuff, like, you should really think about when you want to impact gameplay, based on lore. But nevertheless, Keqing, as a first opinion, I really like Keqing. I think she's a really good DPS. It's really a fun DPS that I really like her kit. And I think she's also a bit of a, noob friendly in terms of how you deal damage with Keqing, because other DPSs are more, they need a bit of more thinking, let's say, compared to Keqing. But Keqing's kit in general is very versatile, and she just can fit in many roles, many different sort of DPS styles, and yeah, that makes Keqing really unique. And also, like, there's opinions around that because Electro doesn't have access to vaporize and melt, the really high damage dealing reactions. For some reason, that automatically, it does indeed automatically lower Keqing's DPS. But as we mentioned with Xiao, he's in the swirl DPS. Xiao is a Anemo DPS. He just deals really high Anemo damage through his plunging attacks. And well, Keqing also does that, can do that really. Well, she just deals good, and Electro DPS doesn't need to be reactions, just Electro DPS. So, people really just throw rocks at Keqing. We're like, you're Electro, your reactions are bad, so you're bad. And it's like, no, that's not it. So, let's get into Keqing's kit and see why she is that good. So, starting off with her auto attacks. She is the fastest sword user when it comes to attacks, although I think Chi-Chi does attack faster than Keqing. The thing that Keqing has is that she has this sort of like disappearing to then dash attack at the end of her cycle, which you should not really see many people like reach this stage of attacks when they use Keqing. Is usually like hit, charge attack, or hit, dash away, dash back in, hit. It's a bit of a loss of time and DPS to wait for the animation, or the disappearing animation, then the dash, and then there's a bit of a buffer time where you can't really like attack again. There's a bit of time where the attack cycle will wait a bit to start. It's a bit weird, and that's the problem with this sort of like that, not like disappearing and teleporting animations and attacks. Like, they can be a bit problematic, but it's nice and unique. Her charge attack, nothing really special when it comes to like animation. She just does a multiple slash thing. Although these charge attacks do have high multipliers. I think as far as I know, Keqing does have the highest multipliers when it comes to charge attacks. So it is, it is a very strong point that people go to when they say that Keqing can deal a lot of damage. Although, of course, if you're gonna be using a lot of charge attacks to deal damage, you're gonna need to be careful with your stamina, because, well, charge attacks use stamina, and if you don't have stamina, you can't dash to dodge. So you need to be careful with that. But yeah, attacks, fancy, I guess, with the teleport. Charge attack deals a lot of damage, and that's it. So then we move on to Keqing's elemental skill. So Keqing's elemental skill has like two parts. It has two parts, and the first part is that Keqing throws out a lightning stiletto, as it's called, this sort of like lightning feather. You can just tap it to throw it to the closest enemy, or like throw it at a direction, or you can hold it to exactly position it. Then the second part of the skill is that you can either charge attack, and then the stiletto will explode and deal electro damage, or you can recast the skill and teleport to the stiletto and deal a huge electro slash. And through the first ascension talent, you will also infuse Keqing's weapon with Electro if you recast the skill. The infusion and the cooldown of the skill are very much like almost the same. The Stiletto has like a 7 seconds cooldown, and then the Electro infusion has like 5 point something. It's like 1.5 seconds of downtime on the Electro infusion. So basically Keqing always has Electro applied on her weapon, which, well, makes her really good at applying Electro and just dealing Electro damage. You can use this skill, of course, because it has a teleporting aspect to it. You can use it as mobility and, of course, dodging, because Keqing does disappear when she teleports to the Stiletto when recast. So yeah, it can easily be used to dodge. So yeah, really good ability. Depending on the build that you're going to, you're gonna use the skill in a different way. The Electro Keqing build will recast the skill in order to infuse Keqing's weapon with Electro. The physical Keqing will do a charge attack in order to proc the 4-piece Pale Flame set, but that is for a bit later. Let's keep that for a bit later in the video when we talk about artifact sets. So then we move on to Keqing's ultimate. When Keqing casts her ultimate, she disappears and then starts going around dealing damage, doing these electro slashes and leaving those like electro like remnants as they are. The thing is that this ability deals good damage. It deals like the slashes, multiple slashes of electro damage, and then a last slash that deals a really big amount of damage. This skill also has a low energy cost and cooldown, so alongside with the low cooldown of your elemental skill, you're really gonna be spamming this ultimate a lot. So yeah, like then you can just deal so much damage through the ultimate. One thing to note is that before the animation of the slashes ends, Keqing will reappear on the field, so do be careful, even if you're using this ultimate to dodge, because it easily allows you to dodge until the animation of like the zoom up to Keqing and then the slashes start. Like, there's a lot of time there where you can just dodge everything coming towards you, but still, before the animation ends, do be careful, move, because Keqing does appear before the last slash happens. So, again, be careful and remember that the animation hasn't ended, and Keqing is on the field. So, yeah. The thing about this ultimate as well is the second ascension talent, where when you cast the ultimate, you gain free 15% crit rate and energy recharge. And it's just free crit rate. The energy recharge is nice. Again, with the low cooldown skill, you'll just regenerate even more energy, and the cost is 40, so you're just gonna have your ultimate almost always up, especially if you have another Electro character in the party. But that crit rate, my goodness, that crit rate is just so free that it also allows Keqing to be a god with whatever build you use for her. And yeah, that's her kit, and well, let's talk about the roles that Keqing can fit. Well, main DPS is really her only thing. I guess you can sort of say sub DPS, that's really her only role. She's meant to be a good DPS with a lot of different like variations. Once again, I mentioned the Electro DPS, where, well, you focus on having Keqing out on the field almost always, supporting her through not really reactions, just buffing her damage some way or another, and just Keqing being out on the field and dealing Electro damage like crazy. That's an Electro DPS. There you can have some sort of like quick swap team where you just quickly swap between your characters that have low cooldowns and you just throw things at enemies. There's also the like physical Keqing, where you sort of, you don't use the Electro infusion from the skill, but you use the ultimate to get the free crit rate. And what you do is that you either use a 2-piece Pale Flame or 2-piece Bloodstained, or a 4-piece Pale Flame, and you just spam charge attacks with that deal physical damage, and you deal a lot of damage. Again, the problem with charge attacks is that you need to be careful with your stamina. If there was some character that could lower charge attack stamina, they would fit 100% alongside Keqing. That is definitely a thing. So yeah, for artifacts then. The main artifacts that are used for an Electro Keqing build is something like a 2-piece Gladiator or a 2-piece Thundering Fury because of the 18% attack, and then the 15% extra electro damage bonus from the Lightning Fury. And that's really it. You don't need the 4-piece Lightning Fury, the reason being that, well, the increase in reaction damage, you don't need that because electro reactions just don't deal that much damage. So buffing them, it really won't affect your DPS capabilities, especially since, again, this is an Electro Keqing. She doesn't care about reactions, she just cares about dealing electro damage. And then the cooldown reduction that you get isn't needed. Your skill has a 1.5 seconds downtime for the infusion, so it's not really needed to reduce the cooldown even more. So yeah, a 4-piece Lightning Fury it just isn't needed. So yeah, 2-piece Lightning Fury, 2-piece Gladiator, or you can go for a 4-piece Thunder Soother. The 2-piece is the electro resistance, which is completely useless. But the 4-piece is the extra damage against opponents affected by electro. So if you have a party that doesn't cause many reactions and just buffs Keqing's damage without using elements on enemies, then you can easily use the 4-piece Thunder Soother and deal some really good damage. Because again, if Keqing is almost always on the field and she's dealing electro damage and not, again, your other supports that are supporting Keqing aren't using some sort of element, then the enemies are only affected by electro, so you gain the Thunder Soother effect. And it has been not necessarily proven, but it's just a really good alternative compared to Lightning Fury and Gladiator. Again, depending on what you have on your party, what's your party? Is your party filled with electro characters and perhaps a Bennett? Then I think the 4-piece Thunder Soother is again possible, depending on what artifacts you have. Because Gladiator is a bit hard to farm, or well, in a week we get the new Inazuma set that is also that you can farm, that gives 18% attack like Gladiator, so maybe it will be a bit easier to farm that 2-piece Lightning Fury, 2-piece 18 attack bonus. Although, talking about that new Inazuma set, I do sort of think it might become, a new option to use for Keqing. The 2-piece set gives you 18% attack, and then the 4-piece set is that whole, if you have 15 energy and you use your skill, you lose 15 energy, but you get extra normal, charged, and plunging attack damage. Well, the plunging attack damage you don't really need. But for the normal and charge attack damage, hey, that's nice. Although, again, the crit rate you gain from your ultimate is very valuable, I think. Especially in a physical damage build, where you're using most likely Aquila Favonia that doesn't give you any crit rate, or crit damage. You're gonna need some good artifacts to balance out your crit rate and crit damage. And the thing is that, again, the free 15% crit rate that the ultimate gives you, I mean, it really helped, because even at something like 35 or 40 crit rate with an Aquila Favonia that, again, doesn't give you crit rate or crit damage, just using the ultimate brings you to a crit rate percentage that is very much acceptable. So yeah, if we see that Keqing's ability, Keqing's skill generates enough particles to give more than the 15 energy you lose, then I guess this new set will become something. Or again, if you have good artifact sets and you're still running a physical Keqing with the Aquila Favonia or Jade Cutter, we'll talk about weapons later, then you might just skip on the ultimate, just throw down the stiletto and get the charge attack bonus. again, it might become a build. It will become at least an option. I 100% think that it will definitely become an option to Keqing. And for the physical DPS, well, the 4-piece Pale Flame set is one that most people recommend. You can go for a 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Bloodstain set if you got, if both those Pale Flame artifacts and Bloodstained artifacts have good substats. But the 4-piece Pale Flame set is really good, where you don't need, in order to use the 4-piece Pale Flame set, you need to hit with your elemental skill twice. And how this works is that you throw out your stiletto. The stiletto deals damage when it hits an enemy, because it does when you cast it. And then instead of recasting it to deal damage and get the Pale Flame bonus, and then you're infused with Electro, you're not doing physical damage. What you do is you do a charge attack to trigger the Electro Explosion of the skill, and then you get the 4-piece Pale Flame bonus. And because that gives you 50% physical damage and then a bit of attack, it's better than just 50 physical damage. But again, if you got good Bloodstained artifacts and good Pale Flame artifacts, then I think you should really go for that if you are playing a physical Keqing. Don't go out of your way and spend so much resin farming the 4-piece Pale Flame set. It's gonna be harder than a 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Bloodstain. But again, depends on what artifacts you get and how you use your Keqing. So yeah, that is it for artifact sets. Let's move on to weapons then. Keqing can use a really big variety of weapons. The Black Cliff Longsword is very good, 44 base attack compared to the 42 that other Black Cliff weapons have. So that's good base attack. The Black Cliff Longsword does give crit damage, so it helps you balance your crit damage and crit rate. And Keqing does have a crit damage stat ascension. So again, just helps you balance your crit rate and crit damage, and the effect is really good. The Black Cliff Longsword can fit on basically every Keqing build, either that's physical or that's an Electro Keqing. Favonius Sword, not really for Keqing. The Favonius Sword is energy recharge focused, but with the 40 energy cost and the low cooldown skill, you do not need any sort of energy recharge. Iron Sting, not for Keqing. Lion's Roar is most likely her best gacha weapon. 42 base attack, that's fine. It gives attack percent as its substat, so that's nice. And the effect is that it increases your damage against opponents affected by Pyro and Electro. Well then, Keqing is an Electro character, so in an Electro-focused Keqing, then Lion's Roar is exactly the weapon you need. Of course, because that's what it gives you. Extra damage against opponents affected by Electro, which is exactly what the Thunder Soother set gives you. So even more damage against the Electro opponent. So hey, the Prototype Rancor is okay, good base attack, and it gives a physical damage bonus. So an Electro Keqing can't really use it, unless you're playing completely free to play, or either you haven't gotten any luck in the gacha and you don't have any other sword. Then the Prototype Rancor is unfortunately, your only option for an Electro Keqing. For a physical Keqing, good base attack, give physical damage bonus. As far as I know from seeing calculations and such being done from other people, have the Prototype Rancor at a high refinement, and then you'll be dealing good damage. A refinement 1 Prototype Rancor isn't that good for a physical damage Keqing. Well, it is good compared to other options, but do refine the Prototype Rancor to deal more damage and be on the sort of top 5 weapons for physical damage Keqing. I've seen some lists like that. Sacrificial Sword, not for Keqing at all. Alley Flash has good base attack, 45, it's really high. It gives elemental mastery and you don't really need it. Its effect is nice, so I guess if it's the only other weapon you have, compared to the weapons you can craft, then sure, you can use the Alley Flash, I guess, on a Thunder, on Electro Keqing. I don't know how much it really fits on a physical Keqing. No, the Prototype Rancor is definitely 100% better than the alley flash when it comes to physical Keqing. The black sword, very nice, very stylish, and fits Keqing extremely well. The crit rate helps, balancing crit rate and crit damage. Its base attack is fine, and then its effect is all about normal and charge attacks, which every Keqing build is focused around that, so the black sword fits in every composition. Flute, nice and stylish. It's fine, really. It has good base attack, and it gives attack. So in a electro-focused Keqing, the flute can be fine if you don't want to waste resources crafting prototype rankers. And I mean, I've used the flute on an electro Keqing and it's perfectly fine. So again, if you don't have other options, flute is perfectly fine. Lion's Roar does outdamage it, of course, because the flute doesn't increase your damage through its effect. But again, the flute is perfectly fine. Festering Desire, while nice with the skill damage and skill crit rate, it's not really for Keqing. So yeah, I mean, that's the 4 stars. The new Inazuma weapons you can craft, I don't think it's really for Keqing. Doesn't really fit her. I mean, it does give attack, but the effect is all about energy generation, and she doesn't really need it. So let's get on to 5 stars then. Aquila Favonia is the weapon you should use if you're running a physical Keqing, because that's what Aquila Favonia wants. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. The best weapon, of course, is the Primordial Jade Cutter. I mean, its crit rate is busted, the effect is extremely powerful, so yeah. And you can use the Jade Cutter in every build. Like, either that's a physical build or a electro Keqing. Like, the Jade Cutter fits in every role. And as far as I've seen, the Jade Cutter can actually out-damage an Aquila Favonia. Believe it or not. So, hey, if you have a Bennett, give him the Aquila Favonia and give the Jade Cutter to Keqing. But if you only have an Aquila Favonia, just use the Aquila Favonia for a physical damage bonus, for a physical damage build. For an electro build, Jade Cutter, don't use the Aquila Favonia. The Skyward Blade, while it does have nice base attack, it gives energy recharge and Keqing doesn't need it. And the effect is nice, but I don't think it out damages something even like the Prototype Rancor or Lion's Roar even. Or, the Black Sword, of course. So, again, depending on what you have, if Skyward Blade is the only sword you have, then go ahead and use it. Summit Shaper is nice, good base attack, it gives attack percent, but you will need Zhongli. I'm sorry, but you will 100% need Zhongli to fully utilize Summit Shaper. If you do have Zhongli, Summit Shaper is actually an incredibly good weapon. Seriously, an incredibly good weapon. I would even think it might even out-damage Aquila Favonia in a physical damage build if you have, if you're able to keep its effect up. So yeah, I mean, that is it for weapons. And, I mentioned Zhongli. Keqing does have some weird artifact builds where you can use, like, freaking Retracting Bolide with a Zhongli on your team, because it does give you damage if you have a shield. Heck, there's like the combos with turning Keqing into a completely other element, because you can have someone like Chongyun make Keqing a cryo DPS through her charged attacks, and then you use like Blizzard Strayer to deal extra cryo damage and give her crit rate. Or you go with like a C6 Bennett and turn Keqing into a Pyro Keqing and use someone like Xingqiu and use a 4-piece Crimson Witch. Like, those are builds that can happen, but they are very, very niche. Let's be fair. They're very niche. Especially a C6 Bennett, a C6 Bennett is very hard to get. So, if you wanna go and try these, builds out, then sure. But again, they're very niche. But that is it, really. Keqing is a very, very fun character. And don't listen to people that tell you she's not a good DPS. There's this whole idea going around about power creep. And sure, a newer DPS coming out on the character banners will deal more damage than previous characters. But that doesn't mean that previous character lost damage, a vaporized Diluc or, well, a Keqing still deals damage. The new character deals more damage, but again, it's not like the previous character just lost damage. So again, don't listen to people that tell you that, oh, other characters will become useless. How the fuck are they gonna become useless? They don't lose DPS. They don't lose damage because a new character came out. So yeah, Keqing is still a very good DPS, very versatile in all of the builds you can use with her, and she's fun. She has a lot of mobility. She can easily be used in the Spiral Abyss to dodge attacks. There were like those freaking Geovishaps in the Abyss, the Oceanids, the Ruin Guards like 2-3 versions ago, and with Keqing on my team, I was easily able to dodge so much damage through her ultimate and skill. And I loved it. And again, she's very noob friendly. You don't need to do much with Keqing. Throw your stiletto, recast the stiletto, start attacking, throw your ultimate. Well, you know, other DPSs like, as I mentioned of Diluc, you know, you need to use his Z, attack, use Z, attack, ult, like, you know, they're more complicated than Keqing, and that's why Keqing is a bit more, you know, again, user-friendly, more noob-friendly. But yeah, that is it. You know, let's end this here. I'll see you all in the next video where we take a look at, now that I think about it, Mona. So I'll see you then.